What does the Hippocratic Oath mean to a monster? In Vampyr, we get to see how Jonathan Reed struggles to walk the tightrope of being a doctor and a creature of the night. So what would you do? Hide your power away and help others? Or exploit others and become a monster? Jonathan has returned to London after serving his country as a surgeon in World War I. He has already been deeply scarred by this experience and now wakes up as a vampire. London is suffering from the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918, and underneath it all, a vampire plague. As Jonathan wakes, a primal thirst takes hold of him, and he is drawn towards the closest source of blood. We see the blood itself as it flows through the silhouette of a woman, and Jonathan drinks his fill to realize that this was his sister, Mary.
No, Mary!
Confused and disgusted, he runs as a group of men see what he has done. Soon he realizes these men are vampire hunters, and he tries to reason with one of them as the sun burns his arm, providing further evidence to what he is.
Listen to me. I can't make any sense of this. Shut up, beast! Who are you? What is this all about?
In despair, he attempts to end his suffering, but upon waking up, he realizes he might as well try to get answers. Following a blood trail, he finds a pub where Dr. Swansea, the head of the local hospital, burns Reed with a crucifix.
Present yourself!
I need a word.
After a brief exchange, Reed now knows of a secretive underbelly of the city, one where vampires and secret societies war in the shadows. Swansea is a part of St. John's Stole, a neutral faction keeping the peace, while the Brotherhood hunts the vampires. Following a new trail, Reed finds his first Skull, a feral vampire. Fairly common in vampire lore, there is an original vampire who sires a few ancient vampires, and then as the bloody MLM scheme goes down the line, each generation loses some power of its parent, eventually resulting in a skull for this game's purposes. These ghouls are crazed, eating victims instead of drinking from them, and one has attacked the local priest. Reed is rescued by a female vampire who disappears, and Swansea comes to rescue the priest. Swansea admits to knowing Reed and his expertise in blood transfusion, the pre-vampire blood transfusion that is, and invites him to work at the hospital as cover for his new condition. This is when the question I posed at the start really comes into play. You see, the more Jonathan gets to know the person, and the healthier they are, the more power their blood holds. And obviously a homeless drunk is not worth as much as a high society man. So a quick look at some of the doctors, and this becomes extremely tempting. Or maybe the doctors are too important. Maybe a few of the dying patients. The game itself is very punishing if you do not level up, so each struggle is further evidence that Jonathan needs more power. Drinking blood of the citizens gives a massive boost to experience, while XP from fights is very small. The difference between thousands of XP versus like 10 to 25 per fight. And to make things harder on you, doing the missions for the individuals not only rewards with a decent amount of XP, but also increases the individual's worth. So starts the conundrum. Feed and destabilize London, or save lives? Or if you're devious enough, be the wolf in sheep's clothing, helping one day and betraying the next. And that's not all. Jonathan must decide the fate of several key figures in London. He is hunted by and offered to join secret societies, as well as dive headfirst into the underworld of the city. You see, Jonathan gains the attention of every powerful individual in London due to his obvious innate power. Not only is he not a mutated Skull, but he is also obviously sired by a very old vampire, potentially being the most powerful vampire in all of London. But more on that revelation soon. Jonathan eventually meets the vampire that rescued him, a very old aristocratic Londoner who funds the hospital in exchange for blood of the patients, Lady Elizabeth Ashburn. He then helps her solve an issue with a blackmailer, which gives us the most tempting offer so far, to drink blood from a community leader, but doing so would destroy the region that they led in exchange for about 6,000 XP, a truly mammoth sum, especially early on. Reed then travels to watch his sister's funeral, where he becomes emotional and decides to confess at the local church. On the way, he is confronted by an absolute unit of a vampire who warns him to play nice with the local vampire aristocracy or die.
Abide by them, or I shall return as your judge and jury.
However, he finds himself unable to enter the church, and the local vampire hunters have begun using crucifixes against him. After confessing to the local priest just outside, he sees a manifestation of his maker, who speaks to him in riddles and frustrates Jonathan.
Riddles and rhymes. You took my life. Now you insult my mind.
Be stilled, my child.
He returns to find the priest he had rescued earlier, Sean Hampton, had in fact been infected by the skull attack. While away, Sean seemingly attacked another patient and ran away, fleeing back to his charity shelter. When he is confronted, Sean looks to be decomposing, but not insane like the average skull. He prompts Jonathan to go into the nearby sewer, and what he would find there would answer all of his questions. While searching the sewers, he finds the huge vampire enforcer hunting down the skulls hiding down there. Jonathan and him battle, but Jonathan is far too powerful for him, despite me losing the fight several times. Somewhere, my wife is mocking me right now. As it turns out, there's an underground society of skulls underneath the city, and not all of them go feral. The patient that we thought was attacked began to feel a change just at the same time that Sean had, so they plotted an escape together, faking her death. Jonathan, now convinced that Sean was not a monster, now has to make the same community leader decision. Sean wants to help others, but the question is, how long can he curb his hunger before he starts making a mistake? Personally, I made him into a full vampire instead by feeding him my blood.
Kneel and drink. Now.
Which cures his need to eat flesh. With this, Jonathan learns a sinister truth. When he attacked his sister on the docks, she also turned into a vampire, and she is extremely spiteful of Jonathan and her new condition, threatening their mother to leverage Jonathan into a fight. After setting his sister back to rest, he vows to find a cure to the disease that he now understands is not the Spanish flu, but is the contaminated blood being spread by the Scowls. Elizabeth sends a letter to Jonathan telling him that the Ascalon Club, the local vampire aristocracy, wants to speak to him. They ask Jonathan to join their ranks, claiming that their ultimate goal is to protect London from threats, like their original leader, William Marshall, did. More on him soon. After initiation, he is sent off to find the origin of the Scowl infestation. This investigation leads him to Doris Fletcher, a famous actress turned Skull whose mutation has caused her to lose her mind.
Doris Fletcher is no more. All that remains are the dreams of the queen she was, and the queen she'll be. And farewell.
After the battle, the leader of the local vampire hunters warns Jonathan that they are going to start a new crusade against the vampires, but he lets Jonathan go as he is curious to what his part in all of the recent events are.
I'm not here for you, but once I've put all the pieces of the puzzle together, I'm sure we'll have a little chat, you and me.
Stay away from me, McCullum.
The Ascalon Club then tasks Jonathan to turn a local leader of the district into a vampire, admitting that his blood is almost certainly the strongest around. This man, Aloysius Dawson, has spent his whole life afraid of his own demise after his brother passed away in an airplane crash. My choice for Dawson was to mesmerize him to forget his fear of his impending sickness, and he donates his entire fortune to the city for medical research, which clears all of the sickness from all of the districts. Which is handy, because I decide to finally drain a citizen for their XP.
My sweet queen, who will protect you from yourself? Will you cry for me?
This causes Jonathan to be shunned by the Ascalon Club, making him again a lone doctor in amidst a war. The leader of the Skulls warns Jonathan that the vampire hunters have captured Dr. Swansea and have taken him back to the acting school where Doris was creating her small army. This sparks a battle between the leader and himself, leaving the choice to turn him into a vampire or letting him go. Upon reaching Swansea, he admits that he was experimenting on Harriet Jones to create a cure for the plague. Which, come on, is there a single district leader without skeletons in their closet?
I think you have some explaining to do.
I have nothing to hide, Jonathan. Nothing at all.
Doris Fletcher visited her mother at the Pembroke Hospital. That's how she first got infected.
I know nothing about that. Miss Fletcher once came to visit the sick. That is all I know.
No, Edgar, there is more. Doris Fletcher was Harriet Jones's daughter. They exhibited the same symptoms, family bond. They were the embodiment of the epidemic and are linked to the Pembroke Hospital. Come on, Edgar, this is no coincidence.
I swear I'm at a complete loss. All I did was administer vampire blood to cure old Harriet. There was no evil plan, no diabolical plot.
You did what?
Jonathan then decides Swansea's fate. You can turn him, kill him, or allow him to die of his wounds. As he returns to Elizabeth, who is distraught at the revelation that her blood has caused the epidemic, she flees. She asks Jonathan to finish off Harriet and end the plague. It is now time to head back to the Skull City and end this once and for all. However, the hideout is destroyed, and just before confronting Harriet, his maker comes to him again. The being explains to Jonathan that it chose him as a doctor to use his scientific know-how to restore order to the world. You see, Harriet is now the conduit for an ancient evil known as the Red Queen. The Queen is the Morrigan, an ancient Celtic goddess of war.
Take not a step further, child, for you are unprepared.
Upon fighting Harriet, she transforms into the all-powerful Red Queen.
Is this a dream? Am I awake? Is this anger I feel?
And upon defeat, the Red Queen just warns she will come back again.
Until the next time.
Until the next time.
Old Bridget, the leader of the Skulls, then appears to tell Jonathan that she was once the wife of Lord Redgrave, the leader of the Ascalon Club. He attempted to turn her into a vampire, but his blood was too weak, turning her into a Skull instead. His rejection of her caused her to try and take care of the Skull population in secret. Redgrave had always claimed to be sired by William Marshall, and this would prove that he was lying. Jonathan then goes to find Elizabeth, who has returned to her decaying family castle in Scotland, where he finds her caring for her maker, William Marshall himself. Marshall tells Jonathan that his own maker is actually the Archangel Michael. Marshall was infected by the Red Queen and created a treatment for Elizabeth, leaving her only thirsting for blood and not flesh, though this has made her a healthy carrier of the disease. Though he had chained himself up to avoid harming others, much like the castle, Marshall is withering away and asks Elizabeth to end his suffering. Afterwards comes one of the 4 endings depending on how many citizens Jonathan drank from. The bad 2 endings, where Jonathan drank from many of the citizens, Elizabeth rejects him and cremates herself, leaving Jonathan alone and faced with his new existence as a monster. The 2 good endings have him convince her to stay, and with Jonathan's cure, remain traveling the world together, controlling their thirst as vampire lovers. But the echo of the Queen's words remain. She will be back one day, And will they be ready? Who knows, because they haven't made a sequel yet. This may be the main story of the game, but each citizen has their own full story, and this is not the entirety of the story, just Jonathan's. I highly encourage you to play Vampyr and decide for yourself what kind of monster you are. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you. Please like and subscribe. Tell Don't Nod to create a sequel, and have a good day. Jib out.